But the big news of this morning has been the big deal in the paint space, where JSW Paints has gone ahead and acquired Akzo Nobel. In fact, we had an inkling of that from many months. Why is that? Because Parth Jindal himself had told CNBC-TV18 at the World Economic Forum Summit in January in Davos about the Akzo Nobel India acquisition, their interest in this business so far. Listen to what he had to say, and thereafter we'll get an expert to comment on it.
I think there's no choice. If JSW and the ambitions we've shown that we want to be a top 3 player in whichever sector we play in, if I have to do that, then I have to give it everything that I've got for Akzo.
How will you fund it?
It's going to be a mix of the family investing, and private equity.
All right, so that is, you heard it here on CNBC-TV18, Parth Jindal himself saying that because of the ambitions that they have in the paint space, they are targeting close to around 5,000 crore revenue by FY26. 2,000 crores what they crossed in the previous financial year, just about broke even on the EBITDA. They have to grow faster, look at inorganic, and Akzo Nobel was the asset on the block, and for which they had made an offer as well. The open offer for up to 1.14 crore shares of Akzo Nobel at around 34.18 rupees per share. Gurmeet Chadha now joins in. He's the managing partner and CIO at Complete Circle. Gurmeet, you've been tracking the paint space for a while right now. Asian Paints obviously dented by the aggression shown by Birlas, but now we have major conglomerates who always had an interest in the paint space, but JSW going ahead and buying Akzo Nobel gives them a higher chair at the table. What do you make of this for Akzo Nobel and at the same time the paint industry in general?
Good morning, Nigel. It's going to get very competitive. We recently, and Jindal is an aggressive group. By this acquisition, it's already in top 3, top 4. We saw Birla Opus presentation, a few weeks back, where they spoke about annual capacity of 1,100 million liters per annum. That is just second only to Asian Paints, which is roughly around 1,900 to 2,000 million liters per annum. So, and Jindal will get aggressive. So, may not be great news for Asian Paints from a competitive intensity point of view. But overall, from a sector perspective, it shows you that the prospects are pretty bright. We have seen a series of real estate launches last couple of years. But the decorative side, the home improvement side hasn't done too well, whether it is paints and tiles and home decor and kitchenware, etc. And now as projects complete and the civil work's done, the home improvement gets into shape. And a lot of the launches have been at the mid-affluent and high-affluent segment in NCR, in Mumbai, in Bangalore. And so the overall demand will pick up, but only from a paint industry point of view, there will be another, competitive pricing. Birla has already reached almost 6.7, 6.8% market share.
6.7, 6.8% market share. It's you suppose it is bad news for Asian Paints, but do you think it is bad news for the sector in general, because margins of the sector would be compressed going forward, and at the same time there could be a multiple derating from here on?
See, it's already, some of it is Mangalam already in the price. If you see the performance of the share over last couple of years, despite markets doing well, despite crude, being lower. In fact, this entire year it's been averaging at around $70, $75. The stock hasn't done much. So some of it could be in the price. And maybe it may not reflect immediately. But yes, overall, from a near-term perspective, the industry does well, the volumes go up. But I agree with you, margins could come under pressure. Birla Opus also, when we did dealer check, they were putting up these machines, pretty quickly and at, almost at a very reduced cost. Asian Paints used to be very selective in terms of putting the machine, in terms of color mixing, etc. Birla became very aggressive there. So they obviously have been outspending it. And that also added to the pressure in terms of dealer footprints, etc. So I think it will create more competitive intensity. Good for consumers, may not be that great news for all paint players in general.
So the bottom line is, Gurmeet, I'm warning, will you start buying paint stocks? They have gone through such a long winter, but the heat is still on. Competition will probably come in. I mean, these are serious players, they mean business. The question is, buy paint stocks or still stay away?
I would suggest it would be not a great idea right now, because whenever you see competitive intensity going up, we've seen that in cement. We saw that some of the price action in cables and wires also, but a lot of them have come back. So I think there are more opportunities in the home improvement space. You should look for things which are more predictable in a market like this. And market isn't cheap. It isn't that even, look at, for example, Akzo Nobel shares. They haven't not done anything for last 3 years, but they still trade at 30, 40 times. Asian Paints hasn't done much, let's say, last couple of years, but you're not getting it at 15, 20 multiple. So my suggestion is that Indian markets, the valuations are rich in a lot of large pockets of the market. So you have to be in pockets where valuations are more reasonable, pricing is more predictable, margins are more predictable. This is not a market where you just simply start playing momentum. And we've seen that in terms of price action over the last couple of months at least. So avoidable in my view. There are better spaces in home improvement. There is, as I said, nothing has happened in tiles. Nothing much has happened in sanitary. Nothing much has happened in kitchen and cookware and appliances. I think there are better opportunities there in my view.
Okay, got it. So play maybe the cooker and the tile and the bathroom fitting folks. Just leave out the paints for the time being. Got that point.
Just one clarification.
Thank you, Gurmeet.
Yeah, just one clarification on the entire paint industry. There are a lot of people, when they keep talking about how new real estate supply will aid growth for the paint industry, etc., 80-85% of the paint industry still comes in from repainting as against the new supply. So even if real estate supply increases a fair bit, you don't have as much growth on the paint industry, because it's 80-85% which is repayment demand. And even the prices of paints, everyone says, okay, prices of paints going down is good or bad, etc. for the industry. Prices of paints aren't as big a determinant of demand for paint anymore in the country, because 30-40 years ago, you had 20% of the overall cost of painting that was labor. That has increased to about 50-55%. So if paint prices increase by about 10% or 15%, your overall cost of painting increases just by about 4 or 5%, because 50-55% of the cost is still the labor.
Correct.
So that is something that we'll have to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Okay.